Vishnu,
Hi, Solon.
would you like to do the honors, please?
Hey everyone. Good night.
I would volunteer Sarah to do the honors.
What a volunteer, Sarah.
Or else I'll just read what Sarah said.
Sarah, you want to start off?
All right, sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be
Cameras,
twice
please.
volunteered. Welcome to our first Ask Wednesday. The idea behind Ask Wednesday is so that we can tap into each other's expertise and experience and learning over the year. So any questions that you have that's related to any topic connected to entrepreneurship or even life generally, because Brand New has that sort of diverse skill present among our community, feel free to bring it up here. Also, if there's a challenge that you're currently addressing and you would like to get some fresh insight, this is the place to bring it up. We're happy to help you to brainstorm. I personally bring experience in the realm of strategic communication, designing education and awareness campaigns, managing high stake dialogues, negotiations, and all sorts of things communication related. And I'm happy to share the love and share some knowledge with you tonight. So I kicked us off, guys.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Thank you for that awesome introduction. Guys, I'm going to ask you this question. Every week, a certain set of us, Vishnu and Sarah and so on, we get on camera. I know a lot of people are busy doing things because, Wisdom Wednesdays happen to be at a time when, people might probably be dealing with their children and so on. But sometimes staring into these blocks of darkness can be quite disconcerting. I am not as adept at this as Dr. Vishnu Dorga and his sidekick, Keon Smith. So I'm asking you from time to time, if you can, turn on your camera so we can see your faces. But Sarah,
Solon, just for the record, I'm the sidekick.
All right, and both of you guys are kicking me in my side right now. It's okay. So this is good. Sarah, thank you. As Sarah said, Ask Wednesday is when the community can come together and ask any questions. And this particular community of thought leaders and entrepreneurs and so on are people who are not unaccustomed to being put on the spot or being in a space where they have to think on their feet. So feel free to ask whatever question you have. The only bad question is the one that you didn't ask. Actually, I have to really think about that, depending on my audience who I'm telling this to, Vishnu. But anyway, here we are. Let's go. And tonight, I really don't want to be calling on people. I'm getting this repetition of being the bad guy, but this is your night. This is when there's no presenter and you get to ask a question. You're thinking about starting a business. You're thinking about branching out. You're having issues with your business. You're having issues with how you relate to the people in your business. Whatever it is, conflict resolution. There's Sarah here, and Vishnu has a wealth of knowledge, how to speak, how to present yourself. There's Keon. Legal matter, Ayana McCallum is here. Something about the UN, Louis Ferguson is here. Event planning, the Caribbean region. I see Nicholas McDavid is here. We have an amalgamation of amazing talent. So take it away, guys.
So I came prepared with a question. My question is, so I have for the last year been thinking more and more about getting my company actually registered. But when it comes to tax, I don't know a whole lot about tax structures and how you handle that. So is it like for a startup, is it easier to register as a small business as opposed to registering a company right off the bat? I'm open to hearing recommendations on how you actually do it.
Yep, so I can start off with that one. I know Ayana is also very skilled in this field. What I would recommend, it really depends on your business activity. So if you're telecommunications, I would say remain a sole proprietor, because telecommunications companies get taxed at 45%. Commercial companies, which are companies that trade in goods that are not manufactured by them, so it's basically the importers that we have, they are taxed at 40%. And then non-commercial companies, which are the companies that either manufacture their items or they trade in services, where, Sarah, I think you would fall in trading and services, that would be taxed at 25%. If you're in education or medical services, right now the tax rate on those is 0%. So the options you do have is to become a sole proprietor, which is a business registration. However, as a sole proprietor, you are taxed just like an employee. So basically 1/3 of your gross income, well, 1/3 of your net income at the end of the year is not taxed. Then about 1.5 is taxed at 27%, and then the remainder at 40%. So up to about 5-6 million worth in income, you get taxed at almost the same percent as a non-commercial company. So it ends up averaging at about 25%. But as soon as you go past the 6 to 10 million range in net income, then it's actually more cost effective to be classified as a non-commercial company. So I think the advantages with sole proprietorships, it's easy to get, it's very cheap. I think 5,000 or so within a week or two, you get your business registration. The disadvantage, big companies don't want to deal with sole proprietors. They want to deal with companies that actually have a structure and there's more than just one person. And on the flip side, starting up a incorporated company can cost anywhere from 150,000 to 300,000. The actual legal fees are just about 70,000, but the lawyers also have to eat. They also have bills to pay, so they ensure that the fees end up somewhere at between 150 to 300. The higher end lawyers go up to 400,000 or 500,000, but that includes your certificate of incorporation, your directors, your bylaws, and all of that. And the other thing which business people who are not very structured don't like is that as an incorporated company, you have to present audited financials to the revenue authority and to the company, the registrar, on an annual basis. So I love it because it means all my companies are audited. I know exactly where everything is. And for our shareholders or directors, their audited financials, it's not me as a sole proprietor making up what I would like to make up. As most sole proprietors and the accountants that work for them have the kind of arrangement of, well, how much tax you want to pay this year? And the problem is, as soon as you start adding on team members, and it's not even that is where the problem is. Most of the time, the sole proprietors don't know how much money they're actually making or losing. And when the employees see that the owner of the business has no qualms with robbing the government, then he or she may not have any qualms with them robbing the owner. So that's a little bit. It's more of an overview. If you have anything specific, let me know. If you have the budget and the vision, I would say incorporate. If you're going to do it at a serious scale. If you are just a solopreneur, and then it might actually better remain a consultant. Don't register the business and work on consulting. I have found that most individuals usually go to some project or full-time employment. In my 9 years of officially doing this, of the 50 or so consultants that I've seen start alongside me during the past 9 years, only 3 I can think of that actually are still in business. The rest of them have gone to UNDP or some other project, just because when they get a project, it's like feasting, and when there are no projects, then it's like famine. So it is, and then most portions can't withstand that cycle because they don't set aside enough savings or other investments to bridge them when jobs aren't coming that quickly. But if you have any other
Excellent.
specific questions, I can help.
Yeah, no, that was good. Thank you very much. I made a decision on the spot. It's for me, one of the biggest issues was managing the amount of tax that I'm paying. And when you're paying taxes as an employee with the new tax structure, it adds up to quite a bit. But also with my consulting services, how I like to operate is I operate as a ghost. So I am the person behind the scenes providing services to companies who provide services to other companies. And ideally, I mobilize university students to help me to provide those services. So it makes sense to register a service-based company and pay that 25% is going to save me a lot of money. I will pay the auditors and still have extra income left over. Thanks, Vishnu.
And auditors generally go from about 50,000 to about 150, 200,000 for a service company. But I think one key thing to remember is the mindset we have around taxes. Um, I can't wait until I'm in a position to actually pay $1 billion in taxes. I would love to be someone who pays $1 billion in taxes. That's my I am statement around taxes. Because even if I were taxed at 25%, me paying $1 billion in taxes means that I made $3 billion in profit. Sometimes our fear
Yes.
of paying taxes keeps our profit small. Well, not sometimes. I see this every day. So fearful of paying taxes, but because we do that, we limit our growth as well. So love paying taxes because you only pay taxes on profit. You don't pay taxes if you're making a loss. You know, not making taxes, not paying them.
Yeah.
I am
I,
gonna look
I
at my tax mindset. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add, Sarah, I think it's great that you've made a decision on the spot and particularly to make the decision to incorporate, because I always advise clients that over the longer term, that is actually a far better business decision than actually working as a sole trader, because the advantages, as Vishnu has pointed out, in terms of when you're dealing with the larger companies and clients, they prefer you to have a much more stable structure. And it also has legal protections for you when you're working as a company, apart from the taxes as well. You're giving yourself a certain amount of legal protection because the company is separate from you. So just in terms of business advantages, in terms of working with larger companies, they're much more inclined to work with you if you have a structure, a legal structure that is set up separate from yourself. Um, and it also gives you both the tax advantage as well as certain legal protections when you're working as a company. So that's definitely a good choice to make.
Thank you. Thank you. I just got like about more than I can't even price this. I just got exercise.
Thanks for that, Vishnu and Ayana. Anyone else? Vishnu, as a coach, you see a range of or entrepreneurs from various backgrounds, various ages come into to your classes. Around taxes, do you actually talk to them about the importance of paying taxes or the benefits of paying taxes? How do you frame that conversation or discussion?
Well, they usually come to me after they've done a lot of research and they really want to grow much faster and they've kind of figured out they've spoken to people who I've worked with. And there are two things that we look at, are they coachable and is the business coachable? And on the business side of things, some of the questions that we ask, Tiana and I, we did a strategic session together with the prospective client. But part of the questions, and that was yesterday, but part of the question we also asked them, are there tax, is their tax situation in order? Do they owe any taxes? Do they declare the right amount of taxes? Do they have audited financial? If the answer to that is yes, fantastic, right? It's an easier client to work with. If the answer to that is no, then the question is, do you want to have a business that runs transparently with clear financials so that you know what's happening, everybody in the business knows what's happening, and pay your fair share of taxes? And if the answer to that is no, then we actually refuse to work with them. We don't work with them.
Mm.
But if the answer is yes, however, can we do it over a year? Can we do it over 2 years? Can we, plan to integrate the company and have a proper system? And we know that they're serious, then we offer to work with them. But other than that, not paying taxes is an ethical manner as well. Yeah, an ethical matter as well. So we do talk to them, because the problem is, if you're not paying your taxes and you do well, and if you're not paying your taxes and you do well, they're still going to come after you. And do you want to be able to sleep peaceful at night? And I want to be able to sleep peaceful at night. I don't want to see on the front pages, Dr. Vishnu Durga supports tax cheats, and I don't want to, I don't want to be involved in that. I pay too much of a price to run the way I do. So, but it's something that we talk to them very early on. And many of them have actually made mistakes of incorporating their import business and keeping their service business as a sole proprietorship. So they're paying, the higher taxes on the thing that they should have really kept as a sole proprietorship, and they're paying, so it's they're paying higher taxes on both sides, and sometimes making that simple shift, pays for the coaching fee, and that's one decision, and you already so, yeah.
Is this a mindset that is prevalent among entrepreneurs? Is this something that is regional? It's universal? What are your thoughts on that?
It is universal. So there are many studies across the world, and what usually happens is that either tax education at the school level, or the revenue authorities, wherever we start educating people on what taxation is used, because the same road we drive on, the water we drink, the subsidized power we have, all of that comes from taxation, or judges, or whole court system. All those things are being paid by our taxation money. Imagine if we had to individually find the money to pay for those services. It can't work, right? So we put it in a pot, and that pot has to be well managed. And I believe that if more people actually pay their fair share of taxes, especially when it comes to entrepreneurs, they will take more of an interest in what happens in their country, versus looking at it as if, oh, it's the politicians, it's the this, it's the that. It's your money being spent if you actually pay your fair share. Right? That's why I get very passionate about when I see what's the right thing to do the right thing, because it's my money you're spending, or else why am I giving it to you? But if I don't give it to you, I don't even have the right to say a word. Right? So if I'm gonna give it to you, I will have to make sure that I see that it's well spent, and I think all of us have that responsibility. The strange thing as well, in Barbies, I saw people smuggling things because they wanted to avoid duties and taxes on things that do not have any duties or taxes. So it is so cultural. Right? I've seen people bribing police officers where the bribe is more than the ticket, or as much as the ticket. Right? So it's a broken system, but we can either keep moving in a direction to fix it or give up. And I'm not as old as some of us on the call here to give up. We have to keep going.
Yeah, thanks for that, Vishnu. Go ahead.
I have a question regarding the taxes, and that would be, where do you start? Because I was going through some documents, or the requirements to register with the Small Business Bureau, and they said you need compliance from NIS and GRE. But when I approach both entities, they're asking if it is that you are, if what is the purpose of it, and I believe the information that I had got from GRA was that I don't need compliance. I don't need a compliance letter. So if it is that I'm going to Small Business Bureau. So I don't know if it's the person who I was speaking to didn't have all the information, but that was a clear requirement. So they were saying basically that I don't need a compliance unless I'm going for a contract or something like that.
Yep. So a compliance is something that you request when Compliance basically says that you meet all your obligations, all your statutory obligations. Where you start with it is as soon as you do get into a business and you either become a sole proprietor or incorporated body, you have to start recording all your income and all your expenditure. If you have an accountant on staff, they'll put it in the right format. If not, you can outsource it to an accountant and they'll put it in the financial statement format, which you then utilize to pay your taxes. And only when you've paid your taxes can you then get the compliance statement. And you could be making a loss, you could be making a small profit. That really doesn't matter to the tax authority. They would love for you to make profit and charge you taxes, but it's just that whatever earnings you have generated, that you demonstrate that you have declared them. It's like an employee, right? Employees don't have a choice. So those working for established companies don't have a choice. The company declares to the revenue authority what you've earned and they deduct your taxes from you. As a business owner, you have a lot more freedom, but you're supposed to self-declare versus somebody else declaring for you. So I find sometimes calling them on the line, they have a line for tax advisory. I'm not the number here, but it's a tax advisory number. I usually get better, clearer information from them than talking to someone on the counter. And if you really need absolute clarity, write the Commissioner General with your question. So like, I had a question of alternative energy. We want to have our whole office be powered by solar power. And nobody could give me an answer from the Energy Authority, the Ministry of Finance, on how fast that installation could be depreciated. I know that it's supposed to be 2 years, but people are telling me 3 years, 5 years. So I wrote the commissioner, and within a week, I got back a letter clearly outlining what the law is and that the depreciation is actually over 2 years. So any one of us has the right to also write the Commissioner General. And I don't think he's the one responding, but at least you'll get on paper what a direct answer that you could actually take to court if you have to in the future, because you sought advice before.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else?
To add to that, I was previously on the board of the Small Business Bureau, and they do ask for compliances, and that's because that's in their modus operandi or their constitution to ask for those things for the clients, because the next step of being a client of the SBB is actually to start bidding for clients. It is something that we've gone round and round in circles because we do know what's happening with the various with NIS and GRI, of course, when you try to get your compliance. But I do know that they were looking to change the legislation. They were appealing to the Ministry of Business to have that changed so that you can become a member and not have to have the compliances until you were actually engaging in work for the government. So I hear you on that. I know it's an ongoing struggle with the Small Business Bureau and just trying to become a member when you can't get the compliances.
I think she can get the compliances if she just tells GRE and NS she wants compliance for tender. Just tell them you want the compliance for tender, they'll give you the tender compliance and just submit that to SBB, and that's all they need. A tender compliance.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, that's good so far. Any other question? Anybody has a question for presentations? Keon, I'm trying to get you, I'm trying to rope you in here. Any legal question? Let me throw one out. So you're an entrepreneur and you've been in business for about a year or two, and things have been going good for a while. Then the pandemic hit, and you adapted, but not well enough where you're turning a profit. But somehow you still have the passion and desire to continue in business. What do you do then? If you're not making a profit, but you still have the passion and the commitment, you think you can, if you're able to get past this hump, this period, what is the recommendation? Evie, I I'm going to ask you this, you and Miguel. You guys have several businesses and you've endured, and I can imagine the many challenges you've had to overcome, plus raising a family. How do you do it? Give us one example of a particular business that you might have really been considering not continue, but you did. And how did that turn out?
To be honest, we have had multiple businesses, and we have closed businesses before. As an entrepreneur, you have to know when the time has come to close a venture, an investment, when the time has come to sell it an investment, and when it makes sense to continue with an investment. So it's not a case, whereas we have had a business we keep pouring into and hoping it makes a profit or turn a profit at the end of the day. You have to know. We've had a cell phone shop. I don't think anybody know we had a cell phone store. A very beautiful design cell phone store, do cell phone repairs, sell cell phones, accessories, and everything. And after the first 2 years, we closed it. It wasn't turning a profit. And then again, you gotta understand too, if it's something that you love doing, and you can pivot it into a different direction. There is an option to sell, and then there's an option to pivot to something else that can make an income. As long as you love what you're doing. I think Evie might be best suited to answer the remainder of it to me. Evie?
Sure, thanks for tagging me in. Okay, so if you are having difficulties, which like Solomon mentioned, I think the first thing is communication, that you have to communicate with your stakeholders, whether that's internal or external, and be transparent, be open, let your vendors know, the people that give you a line of credit even, that you're experiencing a hard time. Some of them will work with you and help your business to be viable. And Miguel also mentioned something that was very key. Pivoting is important. And kind of not only pivoting the physical aspects of the business, but pivoting your knowledge and how you've previously kind of engaged in that business or what you were doing. Definitely, you don't want to keep something open that's not viable. But some of the ways that you can explore is maybe looking for collaborations or partnerships. Not necessarily investment in terms of just pouring money into the business, but if you can find people who have influence, who can open avenues of networking, and even avenues to expand the market share, that would be really good to look into. So having a business coach is great when you face these difficulties. So I'm just putting a shameless plug there for Vishnu. So yeah, definitely talk to people. Communication is key, just to sum up. And what Miguel said in the beginning, pivoting is key. People don't know this also, but I actually used to do catering out of our hotel or guest house or inn or whatever you want to call it. And from that experience, I was able to pivot into Java Coffee Bar or use that experience that I had. And I talk about effectuation a lot. And this is what it is. The first principle of it is where you understand who you are, and what you have at your disposal in your arsenal. And when you have those core features, you can kind of bend and flex them into new things if something that you're doing right now is not working out.
Thanks, Evie. Guys, this is your moment to ask questions. You have experts and experienced folks on the call here. Don't let them get bored. Ask them whatever question you want to. They're accustomed to answering questions. Agri, I see you're.
Yes, I have a question. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Agri.
I would like to know, some tips to navigating financial institutions locally, getting loans, financing, business financing, personal financing, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's my first question. Based on the answers, I'll decide if I ask the second one.
I can take that one. What I would recommend is that as early as possible, meet with all the banks, and especially if you're looking at financing, it could be in some cases where you actually don't need the financing as yet, but you start up a business checking account and you meet with a commercial loan officer so that they can very early on let you know what their types of requirements are. But that also anything that you're doing in a business, that you start depositing all your money and into your account. So if you receive checks, well, checks definitely don't cash your check, deposit into your account. If you have cash, deposit into the account, and then get the checkbook and pay all your expenses with the checkbook, even if it is, a small 2-3 thousand, or write a check for petty cash and then pay out of petty cash. Because what happens when you start doing that is that your financial statement at the end of the year actually matches your bank statement. And that is what the bank really wants to see. One of the big warning signs for a bank is when they look at your account, if you have an account with them, and nothing matches closely to what you're presenting to them as a financial statement. That's a big warning sign, and it's probably 80% of the reason why banks don't lend freely, especially to sole proprietorships. So first bit of advice is open a business checking account, deposit all the revenue, even if it's a couple 100,000, 10,000, whatever it is, deposit it there so that you can start building that track record with the bank. We've dealt with all the banks. I think if I have to, the Blue Bank is still the one that is far more customer savvy and has far more reach, and especially if you're starting to move into funding requirements that go 50 million, 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion. That bank does operate a bit more professional and faster. The other banks, DDL finances, the Mara Bank finances DDL, GBTI finances Bihari, Citizen Bank finances banks. So they have enough demand to deal with the growth of those companies. Whereas a company, organization like Republic Bank, they're here to make money, and they know that in order to make money, they have to keep working on their services, keep talking to their clients. So I hope that gives you some clarity. But
Thank you, Vishnu.
Yes.
I would say just do a business plan as well. Business plans bankers love them, although I've never seen a business plan that pans out exactly the way we plan, but they love seeing that you have a plan for what's going to happen in the future.
Good. I was I well, primarily we do all of those things about being everything via the book and via checking account. I was really looking based on your answer to get some context and more to the end of the answer on like how risk averse or not some of these institutions have been when dealing with investment. Now, I work with Republic Bank here and in the region, so I bank with them and I know how they deal. But I was wondering about the others, if anybody else have any experience with the other banks here to see if in any one of the banks are more geared towards agriculture, if some of the banks are more geared towards startup capital, if some of the banks are primarily good for mortgages. You understand? If anyone have any tips where that's concerned about the other banks or even Republic.
Yeah. NBS is particularly good for mortgages. The rest of them, they all work under the Bank of Guyana framework. So in terms of what they offer, it's pretty much the same, and they follow each other pretty quickly. The MR Bank has been known for more of the environmental type of loans, but you could get them at the other banks as well. And maybe just as an anecdote, when I started off when I was 18, Republic Bank made me run around for a year for $1 million overdraft, and I still didn't get it, and I had to borrow it from a relative. And 2006, when I wanted to buy my first property, I again had to run around for a year. And one thing that stuck with me is one of my mentors told me that when you're now starting off, everybody wants cash and collateral. When you've made it and you've achieved credibility, nobody asks you any of those questions anymore. And I can tell you that it is so true, because now financing is the last of our headaches. Because once these organizations know that you can actually deliver, they're there with the purse strings, try to open any money that you need, because they know, and it's building that reputation and credibility. And if it was that easy, we've had cases like Len, for example, in Linden and GNCB, where public funding was put into it and people could borrow. And the bulk of people who got access to easy money lost that easy money, right? And they couldn't get back that money. So when the money is also too easy to get, and banks know this, there is not enough care being taken with that type of money. And it puts really good entrepreneurs with really good ideas that really should have gotten funding in a difficult spot. Because how does the bank filter out between someone who's just looking for someone to blast or someone who's really going to steward it well without you actually having the reputation? So for all of us, that's why I recommend start from the beginning, even if it's $1,000 per day, whatever you do, is to build that reputation. Because once you have it, your word and your credibility is very, very valuable.
Yeah, as Vishnu said, I remember too when I first started, I went to IPET for loan. They told me that I wanted 250,000 loan. They told me I have to get 250,000 assets in order to get $250,000 loan. That's because I had no track record. I had no proper plan. I didn't have anything. The main thing is keep banking. You keep banking, make sure you run at least about 80% of your finances through your bank. I think it's about 70 to 80% of your finances has to run through your bank to match back your financial statement. You ain't gotta be 100%. But you gotta create a track record through the bank, and you gotta make sure you keep checking your credit info for your credit report, and make sure you have a good credit report, credit info, because it's really important. The banks if you go to the bank for loan, they'll check your financial records, and then they'll pull a credit report from credit info. And as long as those two are good, then they'll consider you seriously for a loan. If you have a financial track record for a very long time, they might not want sub-security unsecured loans. But if you're young at it and you're new venture, they might want somebody to secure that loan. Because remember, at the end of the day, banks are in this to make money. Banking is just about making money. They're just a business. Just treat them as a business. They're not really an agency. They're a business who wants to make money from you.
I would just add to Miguel there as well that we're not utilizing the credit bureau as well as we should. They've now been around, I think it's 7 or 8 years. And it is very important, because the banks are taking those reports, that you actually apply and get your own report. Because my score was in the 700 range, and it should have been much higher. And guess what was happening? The fees on my credit card, the $60 fee that you get once per year, I didn't pay it for a year because I hardly use that credit card, but it was showing up on my credit score as if I'm owing Republic Bank money. And as soon as I asked for that report and I saw 2 or 3 of those fees that were showing as due, we cleared that up and the score went right up. So please make sure that you also know what your credit score is.
I have a question. So the credit bureau gives you that report for free, or you have to pay for it?
You get 1 free report per year, and you could apply for it online. You go to creditinfo.com.
Okay, got you.
I do have a question. Something that I'm usually very taken up with focusing on my own projects and have very little time for, I don't invest any time into what people think about me. However, recently, especially with the acceleration of our growth, some people go out of their way to spread rumors about our company, especially with the clients who are considering us. And I find it to be a real scarcity mindset. Is it because they're not getting the contracts? Is that the best they could do? Bad talk and make up stuff. Because then what happens is the clients go and check everywhere, cross check, and then they realize, hey, that's not true, and then they still end up coming back to us. But I would be interested. So my strategy is usually don't put a single ounce of energy. So me talking about it right now and a post I did this morning on Facebook that took me 1 minute is the most energy I've put into this, but it has come to my attention. Um, any advice on that? So what do people do this to you? Anyone here in the room? And how do you deal with that?
So I would like to take the first crack at this. Oh, I love the irony. No, I believe, and this is being non-biased, this is absolutely being non-biased. I think when people sit on the outside, they believe that the achievements that you get, it comes very, very easy. They do not, they really do not know the level of sacrifices that people make in order to get where they are. Persons who are closer to Vishnu would understand this. And I'm, privileged to be one of those individuals. I have been with the company now for about 6 years. And it's more than just being a team member of the company. I'm just like more a member of the family. The sacrifices that goes into being able to produce is extremely tremendous. When you look at the financial resources behind education, and I would tell anybody, every single year we invest in going to conferences and several other trainings. I think for the time that I've been working, probably 10 previous years of my life, I have never invested that I've invested now in my personal development. I mean, I'm going in close to what? This is going to be maybe close to about 10 million that I've invested in myself over the past 6 years. That in previous 10 years, I have not done even probably a quarter of that. We ensure that we put in the work in the background. Late nights, Selman would have seen our calendar. I've heard him, with the exclamation, whoa, you guys do all of that. It's not because we don't have anything to do with our lives. It's simply because we know what it takes in order to deliver. But someone from the outside, all they see is the top of the iceberg. They just see the actions, the decisions, they see what we're doing, but they don't know all the things that goes on in the background to make sure that happens. So you're going to find persons out there who are going to be saying, well, why are they getting all of this? And, oh, don't go to them because X, Y, and Z. So I would like to say to Dr. Vision as well, like you mentioned, we learned not to focus our energies on the things that will distract us from our goals, the things that comes to break our focus from heading in the direction that we have set for ourselves. And we know about setting 5-year goals and crushing it within 2.5 to just about 3 years. And that's simply because we were focused and not distracted. So the naysayers will be there. We cannot run from it. And I've learned this thing, I can't remember exactly where I heard it from, that there are going to be 3 types of people we are going to come across in this life. There are going to be people who hate us, for absolutely no reason that we could ever fathom. They will just hate us. There are going to be people who will love us, love the dust that we walk on. No matter what we do, they will be there for us. And there are going to be people who will tolerate us. So the idea is focus your energies on where you're receiving your support. Don't worry with the persons who wouldn't like you for whatever reason. And just like Dr. Vishnu, I go through the same. There are people that absolutely don't like me for reasons that I can't understand because I don't affirm to their beliefs. because I don't affirm to their way of thinking, I don't associate with their paradigm. So they believe that you think you're above them. It's nothing of the sort. We just have different levels that we're operating on, and simply that's it. So what we're going through right now, we'll be experiencing, and what even Action Invest will be doing in the future, there'll be more to come. And trust me, there is going to be a whole lot coming out from Action Coach. And I'm not saying this just because I'm a part of the company. When I joined this company 6 years ago, it wasn't the building, it wasn't the accolade, it wasn't clients, it was a vision, a simple vision. It was Guyana's abundance through business re-education. That was it. We had no building, we had no clients. We didn't even know where it would have been. It was just vision telling me, this is a franchise that I bought. This is the vision of the franchise. Do you want to be a part of it? And I said, yes. So everything that is there right now would have been built. It wasn't inherited. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't a handout. It was built by blood, literally sweat and tears, late nights. So this is peace motivation and peace education, where people out there will just have their say, and there's basically nothing we can do about it other than just continue to demonstrate social proof. Let our work continue to speak for itself, that the persons who are wronged us, who benefited, can stand up for us when that time comes. Sorry, I feel
Thank-
like I was pushing.
No,
All
no, no.
right.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that, Keon.
Talwin, if
Go
I
ahead.
might, I'd like to tackle
Sure.
this from a strategic communication standpoint. Thank you for sharing your story, Keon. Now, let me tell you where that story becomes most valuable. First of all, Vishnu, your strategy of not putting energy into this is an excellent strategy. Clearly, you're aware that you need to keep tabs on the situation because let's face it, when the gossip mill gets out of control and it really starts to impact your image. Right now your reputation is intact, and so it's bouncing back, right? You don't need to put any effort in. But let's scenario this. Let's say you get to a place where it starts to have some sort of negative impact on your reputation. Then I would recommend that you already have a game plan in place to address that, right? So I'd suggest sitting down with your team, you don't have to spend a lot of time on it, maybe 20 minutes tops, right? And do a quick brainstorm and come up with about 3 scenarios, right? You're in the best case scenario where your reputation is so intact, it's bouncing back. Come up with a middle ground one and come up with what you consider to be your worst case scenario, and then work backwards on how you address that. Like for example, let's say you get the worst case scenario, you'll need to be equipped with a rapid communication plan to get messages out. And that may not necessarily have to be at a public scale, but it may be at a very, very, high level, closed space sort of scale where you're speaking to your most important investors, ensuring that your most important clients and relationships have the information that they need to have. And then in some cases, I've seen this escalate so far where you actually need to do some conflict management and mitigation with the folks who started up the entire situation. But in Guyana, I've never seen it gotten there. I've mostly dealt with this externally. So that would be what I would add. And if at any point you're in a place where you'd like to discuss the situation in more detail, I'd be happy to give some time.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks, Keon.
Thanks, Sarah. Vishnu, if I may add something to Keon and what Sarah said. In your position, you will attract. I mean, you will attract that kind of a backlash and kind of an attitude from people because you are successful and you're at the front, and your reaction is normal. You're a human being, and we all go through that. I get it. It's not well. not that much on social media, but sometimes people have this temerity to inbox you and question your sanity for even attempting to build an organization in Guyana and to build a platform for young people, which I mean, now it bounces off my back because I am extremely focused and I am very committed to my purpose. But one strategy that I did to at least to deal with Sarah gave the more strategic aspect of responding to that. But on the personal, I surround myself with people who embrace the vision, people who are constantly in their own way, occasionally encouraging me, people like yourself and Eldon and Sarah and so on and so forth. So I'm surrounded by a community of people who believe in the brand new vision and see that with my consistent commitment, there is authenticity there and so on and so forth. But it can get to you. And if you don't have a way of diffusing it or reinforcing your commitment to your vision, it can really stymie you. So I understand the need to do a 1-minute respond and so on and so forth. I recently just posted some pictures of us taking a situation where the vehicles were stuck in the sand when we went up to Blue Lake, and to show how we came together as a team and used that opportunity to work as a team. And there were folks who saw something else. They saw the guys didn't know what they were doing. They made a whole story out of the wheels being stuck. One guy kept saying, well, these guys get a 4x4 stuck in sand. He would never get out of snow. And so what I had to do to respond to him was break into the vernacular and turn this whole thing into a joke, and use a play of words and so on. And then it diffused the whole thing because they realized that, well, it didn't affect me in any way. But this is the kind of stuff that we deal with. And especially when you're at the front of the race, people see you and they throw darts at you. So thankfully you have people like Keon, and we have this community of brand new people with folks that have experience in this kind of stuff like Sarah and so on. And that's really good. I've said enough. Raul, I see Raul has lifted his hand, raised his hand.
Yeah, I just want to add my bit. Simply put, when you ascend to leadership, a real leadership, these things are going to happen. I know you can handle it, Vishnu. One thing I want to show you that there are persons around who know you. And you don't need to take time to defend truth. Truth stands by itself and will take care of things. And persons who know you will speak the truth. Just keep doing the great work you're doing. You've been touching on so many levels. And I'm sure there are more than a handful of persons who will stand and fight for you, even if there's a case for you to fight. But good advice coming there from Sarah. And of course, your boy Keon is right there having your back. So you got a great team. I mean, when I speak about you, the fact that you have Keon as your right hand and you are strong with family, those two things to me are major. Your family is there, your wife is right there, your daughters come there, and you are an open person. I one time gave an example of your, I think it was when I did my my presentation about the way you use your scheduling. Almost every hour is taken up. So stick to the positives, my friend. Stay true to your friends, stay true to your work and your vision, and the success will way overshadow the negatives. And you will be fine. You will be fine.
Thanks, Ron.
One last thing for you, Vishnu, and everybody here. One of the things that you need to keep your eye on, right? It's why are people doing this? And sometimes we think that it's random or they're just bad-minded. But I want you to know that businesses in Guyana, everything in Guyana, we're becoming more, sophisticated and savvy, and we're applying more complex techniques and strategies, especially when it comes to dealing with the competition as we perceive it. And sometimes these hiccups, these attacks, fake profiles, starting rumors about you, they're a strategy to ensure that they create enough noise to distract you, to take away your focus from your work of positive impact. And that's all it is, a distraction tactic. And it's good that you're aware that you shouldn't be putting energy there, because believe me, people will sit down and they will have an entire 60-minute session every week on how to derail their competition in a sector.
Agree.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. So this is excellent. Thank you very much, Vishnu. I am dealing with at least one situation now where there are two entities, and for the for the for the, the for the life of me, I'm trying to understand based on what Sarah just said, why not work together? Because the economy is growing so quickly, um, so that one could get, in this case, well, international contracts, etc., rather than engage in use of energy that will prove futile at the end of the day. And one of the things I'm starting to understand more and more is as the country evolves, we would really need to think about how can we do two things. One, ensure that our colleagues and local partners, we work out differences and have deep, genuine relationships. Two, ensure that we protect our local companies because in because as we become more open to international eyes, we will need each other a lot more than we think we need each other today. And that's what I will say to you. Just figure out ways of deep, genuine, transparent, honest collaborations, because we definitely will need each other as this country continues to develop. That's what I like to add.
Thanks, Agri.
My reply is same thing Ari said. He hit it on the nail. One thing I noticed, and this is specifically for Guyana, and it's frustrating sometimes to look at it. If you go out of Guyana, you understand it from a different perspective, and if you're in Guyana, you see in Guyana we lack collaboration, we lack teamwork. We're always fighting and thinking it's this small market, and we're focusing on this tiny market, not realizing that the world is huge and the world is big, and we are so focused on this small thing and we don't go outside of it. I mean, in my industry, if we used to sit down and we were worried about what this person said and that person said, we would have, I don't think we would have gotten anywhere. And my coaches who basically guide me through it, and he's sitting right there, I'm looking at him on the screen right now. You just focus on what you're doing. You treat every single, even a comment or a complaint or anything as advice, and you just track your way at it. I mean, you still need stop checks, and these people give you the stop and a pause moment, and you get to correct yourself. All news, bad news or good news, is still news, and you still get exposure based on it. And if you are doing something right, and again, if you are doing something right, then you will get naysayers. If you're doing something wrong, you won't get any. It's the way to average that you're on the right track and you're hitting the right nail, because once you're at that point, whereas this start happening, I think it's the point you understand that you're making a difference, and it's really up,
Thanks. And it also brings a different dimension that, for my entire life, people have always been fearful of my abilities, and the same thing also transfers to the company. So in one case, it's untruths that are spread, but on the other side as well, there are a lot of people who are fearful of what we're becoming. And again, in our case, we don't invest energy into that. But how my message to persons like that is, okay, great, the energy that you're investing into the fear, put it into your own organization. Develop your own organization so that you don't have to be living in all that fear. And there's enough for everyone, right? Keon mentioned it. we believe in abundance. There's enough for everyone. We hardly have a population here in this country, 750,000. Even if we double in a year, it's still small. And look at the amount of resources we have. So yeah, I just wanted to also bring this out because I'm in the room with a lot of successful people, so that all of us can also learn from this experience. And best thing we can do as well. I know this is a specific case I'm referring to, but I'm still invited. I still invited the person to an event where I thought they should be. And me not doing that because of what I heard that the person said is not the way we operate. And I'm thinking actions like that, maybe that will teach the person that nobody's out to get you. But again, any other things that you think might come, because I don't think anybody's evil. I really in my heart believe there's no such thing as an evil person. Whenever somebody does something, they actually believe they're right. They actually believe that, so I don't believe in evil people, or else, I'd rather go live somewhere else on some other planet. But how do we expose people to better thinking?
Vishnu, at Google, we have a running statement from the beginning of the company. It says, "Don't be evil." Yeah, and in all that we do, we still have it as a tagline, where we honestly say to developers and new engineers coming on board, "Don't be evil." So yeah.
Thank you for that, Gray. Anybody else?
I'm proud of this community. I'm proud of you all. I've heard some very progressive ideas here tonight, and it's good that we're focused on overhauling this kind of culture, because I believe that the people right here and in our wider group who couldn't make it tonight, we're the ones who are going to be responsible for reshaping our culture into something that is better than what it is currently.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Sarah. And we can, and we are doing it. Just by the way we appear in the world, the way we show up, we are doing it. Vishnu talked earlier about ethics in having a business and paying your taxes and so on, and that's very important. And I think that in a society, some people suffer from what we all do: what we don't know. And sometimes we blame people for not knowing what they don't know, because we assume that they should know better. But the thing is, a lot of people don't have access to the information to learn the things that they don't know. And so if this community, of this diverse community, diverse in many various aspects, continue to do what we are doing and continue to show up in excellence and not be afraid to be excellent in whatever you do, I think that message, that idea, that essence will spread. And so we have a responsibility. We have a unique opportunity here, because it is not lost on me that we have come together as a community. And many people on the call here tonight could be doing something else, but took the time to do this. And we do this every week. And we go out on trips when, now Brand New is in the building and bonding stage. But there are other things happening behind the scene, as Keon mentioned just now, that people don't see the work that goes into building an organization, building an entity. There are lots of other facets of Brand New, lots of hard work that's taking place by people who are committed to this vision. And we are steadfast. But we will be the beacons that will shine a light and guide people to what is better and how better they can be as guidees and steward of this amazing 83,000 square miles. So Vishnu, thank you for bringing that up. I think it brought out some issues and some things that a lot of people experience but don't usually talk about it. I'm sure everybody on this call here has had some kind of experience with someone who or someone's who have cast aspersions on their character. but we have to be steadfast. We have to be courageous, and we have to be strong. You know, we are human, and these things will affect us, but we have to remember that we are bigger than our circumstances, and we are bigger than and greater than people's opinions of us. Nicholas, I want to bring you in. Are you still on the call? I can't see I'm on my iPad actually. I want to bring you in because you are in Jamaica, and you have done events or do events. I'm just curious to find out, how did the pandemic affect you, and what were some pivots, if any, you've made?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, hello. Greetings, everyone. Greetings. The pandemic has affected the events industry here significantly. This has a lot to do with, well, let me put it this way, the legal events industry has been affected. So in terms of people putting on concerts, stage shows, you know, these big festivals, these big events, which require you to get several permits and tiers of permits from the government, those things have been canceled and have been put on hold for quite some time. There have been some test reopenings of the event sector for the government to try and gauge if they should continue forward or if they should retract. There is no definitive way forward at this point in time in the event sector here. They're still in the test phases and, you know, watching how things are, watching how things evolve. They have allowed some entities to do events through some set periods, again, to kind of test results to see what has happened, or if these events will see spikes, if people are following the right protocols at the events, the aftermath, the after effects. So we're still kind of, I would say, in my opinion, we're still in a gray area with regards to the event sector. And there are a lot of people who are significantly being affected here, because it's not just the promoters and the persons who are staging the events, but it's all of the related services and the allied services that tag along with an event that are being affected. So Selwyn is a promoter. Him going to keep all white, right? Selwyn gonna hire a sound system. So you have a sound system provider. Then you're gonna ask a DJ to come and play. Then you might have a live band. And then you have a caterer. You have a bar service. Then you have people who do the lighting. Then it might be somebody doing the staging. Somebody might be doing the decor. Then on the outside and the periphery of the event, you have the little vendors, you have the little sellers, the chewing gum man, the little soup man. It's a whole variety of people have been affected by the pandemic here. And the event sector is one of the biggest sectors in this country because of how entertainment oriented Jamaica is. So there is a constant tug of war between proprietors, practitioners, and the government. And they're trying to tussle it out. But unfortunately, COVID-19, Delta, the various things that have been popping up, it's not linear. It's not like on one track, one path. Different things keep on happening. COVID-19 is very fluid. So it's very hard to sort of say, let's have one plan and stick to it. The plan is always evolving. Things always have to change. So people have been adversely affected in the legal entertainment industry. Guyana and Jamaica are very similar in terms of the people, the mindsets. Jamaican people and Guyanese people have always been very akin to each other in both the good and the bad. So here in Jamaica, there are a lot of unruly people who have illegal events. And the illegal event business, despite the police, despite everything else, the illegal event business is actually thriving. Now, one can look at that as good and bad. Bad in the sense that the illegal events, people don't follow the protocols as much, don't adhere to the restrictions as much. So you find that illegal events could contribute a tad bit more to a potential spread or infecting people. Not to say that the legal event industry can't do that, but at least in the legal events industry, there's more protocols, more procedures, people follow the rules, etc. But people partying here in the ghetto, in the inner city areas, in the rural communities, people partying like crazy. Because those places aren't as monitored, aren't as governed, aren't as policed. If you come to Jamaica, Selwyn, or any of you, and you say, boy, I want to go party, but it's curfew, it's lockdown. No, sir. There are plenty of places you can go party. If you choose to, if you decide. You know, places that are what we would say are off the front page. Because inside the communities, inside the inner city communities, in the city, rural areas, you're not going to just drive past and see them, which is also another reason why these things are thriving like that. So it is a very, very interesting situation here in Jamaica. And it is quite a mixed bag where the entertainment industry is concerned. But because so many people are dependent on it, it is a constant debate in terms of how to get things restarted, because entertainment here is probably the biggest aspect of tourism at this point, in terms of why a lot of people come here. They come to party, for shows, for concerts, for whatever. So it's a big problem here right now, you know, and curfew here is now 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. on a Saturday, and Sunday is a completely no movement day. There was a 3-week cycle where it was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no movement on the road at all. The Prime Minister has cut that back. It's now only Sunday. Now I'm mentioning this to say that it's very hard to do events and particular type of events when your time frame is so cut down. Because on a Monday to Friday, somebody going to leave work at 4:30, between 4 and 5. They're going to fight an hour in traffic. By the time you get to whatever spot, you don't have much time left to get home, to reach home. You know what I mean? So interesting times here, folks. I don't know if there's anything anybody would like to know about the events industry or anything else here happening in good old Jamra.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Nicholas. Ryan, I see you have your hand up.
I'd like to give Agri a
Ryan,
chance.
hold on a second. Right,
Agri's hand
Agri
was up
there
first.
first. Yeah.
Yes, Agri first.
Agri?
Sorry, the mic was muted. I don't want to come completely off topic. I was about to ask a question about those who own land or do business outside of real estate region 3, region 4. How do you manage with transport and that kind of thing? It was more like a business entrepreneurial kind of question. I don't know if we're going in that direction, given what Nicholas was saying. So I can hold that and wait on after Ryan.
Okay. I noticed that while I was in Guyana there, one of my neighbors was hosting like a hidden party, and it would be advertised as a party, and they would say, well, hidden location or something like that. And then you buy the ticket, and then based on who you are and your relationship with them. So when he spoke about illegal parties, they actually are happening in Guyana. And the second thing is that I had a friend that works with some big alcohol company, and they said that a lot more bottles of premium liquor and stuff is being sold in the ghetto. And I think it's contributing to the fact that there's a lot of illegal parties as well in Guyana. I would urge people to be more responsible because now the case is rising, and there are certain hotspots. Where I live was a hotspot and as well. So, Nick, I'd like to hear more about how you think, is there anything can be done about illegal parties? Or do you think that people should just party, or like what is your take on that? Or, anyone else? Because I think more and more this is the standard, because the known locations in Guyana, especially, are being targeted, and I've seen doors being cut open. And I've spoken with owners. Like there's one owner in Sheriff Street that expressed to me what happened, and he made out a whole lot of story about it. So I know businesses are being targeted that are going to breach curfew, but in these illegal parties and so I think that's going to be a norm now. And as I said, it's not outlawed. It's hard to go in, and so what are your ideas going forward in this regard?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
First thing, people need to realize COVID-19 is not going to go away tomorrow. It's going to be here for a very, very long time, especially if we keep doing things like this. It's going to get worse and worse. There's one true way to get rid of COVID-19. If every single body stayed home in their house, for about, I would say, about a month, 2 months, or 3 months the most, it'll have nowhere to go and they'll die out. Every single body has to stay home. If they don't, people keep getting reinfected. It'll keep spreading. I think another thing too is we lack information about it. For instance, I was talking to a guy, my barber the other day, was explaining to him, he said he has on his mask, so he goes out and he parties and everything. I'm like, the virus is 2 micron, the mask is about 4 micron. The virus will go right through your mask. Do you know wearing a mask doesn't really protect you that much? It reduces the amount of virus bodies that goes into your lungs and lets lessen the infection, so you might be asymptomatic. I think there's a lack of information when it comes to COVID-19. I think that it's going to be here for a very long time. And when it comes to the party in Jamaica, can you guys pivot? Can you guys move events online? Can you hire the same team that sets up everything? The sound engineer from a different location, have the bands play remotely from something else, put the event live on the internet, for instance. How many users in Jamaica have televisions? How many users are on the internet? How much users can log in? Sell event tickets live, sell it digitally. Pivot the entertainment industry online. I mean, there's a huge market on the internet. And I'm sure if Jamaica is doing something live online, you'll be hitting targets not only in Jamaica, but in the world. And any Jamaica, the diaspora that's out of Jamaica. There's a way. You gotta think of COVID-19. You gotta think of ways to pivot your business to work in this current time, and not to try to go back to the old ways, because we're in a pandemic, and this is new, and nobody has any answers when it comes to the pandemic. They're all just assuming stuff.
So this is what I'd have to say to Miguel, Ryan, etc. First of all, we are, and when I say we, I'm speaking about Jamaicans, Guyanese, Caribbean, right? Just a FYI to all here, despite this very strong Jamaican accent, born in Guyana, and I'm also very Guyanese, right? So just so you all know. The thing is that we as West Indians and Caribbean people have an outdoor culture, a very, very strong outdoor culture, and we are used to enjoying things outdoors. Now, there have been some pivots in terms of online events, people doing online stuff, selling tickets online. Jamaica has very high internet penetration, even in rural areas. There is also very high TV penetration, even in rural areas. But here in Jamaica, there's still online things happening. But the online thing was a wave initially during the pandemic, and now that wave is over. So there was kind of like a little excitement around online things initially, especially last year coming up, and people were excited about the newness of it and how we're going to capitalize, how we're going to monetize, what can we do, how creative can we get around online. And there was a point where a lot of people were interested, and there was good uptake with regards to online things. But as time started to go along, people's interests kind of waned little by little because online cannot provide the feel of the speaker boxes set up, the sound system set up, the DJ, the selector, a nice lady a bust down to two nice song, the bass hitting in your chest. It don't matter how much you want to do online, you cannot replicate that, right?
Nicholas,
Also,
I'm an entrepreneur. You know, I'm sitting here thinking, I probably should invest into a funeral parlor. I'm not joking right now. I think I probably should invest into a funeral parlor. That's my thought right now as an entrepreneur. I think it's a very wise decision to go into funeral parlor. The business might be very good coming up. I'm not gonna lie.
You might be right. No, I don't want you to think that I am an anti-staying person, because I'm not. So let me just put that out there. If I had my way, if I was the Prime Minister of Jamaica or the President of Guyana during this time, you would see me with a gun on my hip, army fatigues, and the country would be on full lockdown. Everybody would have to stay in them house, just like Vishnu said, and you say everybody have to stay in them house until we get rid of this thing, right? So I just want to put it out there that I am not anti-staying, but I'm just telling you the realities of what is happening and how people think, and why it is that people for a while kind of were into the online thing and it kind of waned. So right now, there are still some little online things, some little online parties, people logging in because there's a set of people now who that has become a norm for them, and they have bought into a trend that has now become something normal. But the great majority of the population here, they want to go out, buy 2 guineas, they want a speaker box, they want to see the DJ, they want to see the nice girl and go tackle them and show some lyrics after them. That's what people want. So they're out and about. You understand? They're out and about, bro. I mean, I don't agree with it, but people here feel very trapped. You know, they feel very hopeless. And their thing is, you know what? We're going out there and do the damn thing. What life we live. And that's kind of what's happening here. So I'm saying, and from what I understand, it's very similar in Guyana, because people, Guyanese and Jamaicans is basically just an accent separate them, you know. That's really it, you know. Guyanese and Jamaicans are so similar, it's uncanny. This is why they get along so well all across the world and all across the diaspora. I challenge everybody who is Guyanese, where there's a Guyanese community, I can bet my last dollar that Jamaicans are nearby and they have Jamaican friends and the link. It's just so the thing set up. You know what I mean? Culturally, we are not built to lock in and ride things out. The only way people in Jamaica go and stay indoors and not go out and party, people have to start raise from the dead. Zombie business, mass infection, the place look like World War Z. That's the only way. Barring that, people going to be out and about, people are going to party, people still going to be out there. We don't live in Singapore. I wish if it was Singapore, but we don't live in Singapore. And some of these things are the fun parts of our culture. This sort of, you know, go against the trend, kind of freedom to be creative, freedom to be expressive. But these things are actually the great parts of our culture as Caribbean people. You know what I mean? In terms of Ryan now, speaking earlier in terms of thoughts around restrictions, rules, regulations, etc. The fact of the matter is that while everybody should be staying in, and while people should be safe, adhere to rules, adhere to restrictions, curfew, regulations, all of these things, which I agree with. The fact of the matter is, illegal parties, especially here in Jamaica, they're actually a way of life for a lot of people. They're only now illegal because of the pandemic. But previous to the pandemic, they weren't illegal. And these events in inner city communities, in rural communities, this is how actually people earn a living and support their families and pay fees and buy books. So it's hard to tell them, stop it, don't do it. And then the government and the people in charge aren't actually giving them an alternative or facilitating an alternative for them to have an economic livelihood. So it's really a catch-22. It's a difficult situation here, especially in Jamaica, because of how big the entertainment sector is here. The entertainment sector is not a lifeline in Guyana. It's important, but it's not a lifeline. In Jamaica, it's a lifeline. It's one of the biggest earners in the economy. So it's a very difficult situation here. While I would want these people to stay in and not have these illegal parties, how are I going to tell mama who owned the bar or daddy who owned the liquor spot not to do him thing to pay him bills?
Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas. I mean, by the way, any laughter you saw from me is because of Vishnu. Vishnu is cracking up and Vishnu. Anyway, guys.
No, man, it's good. It's good vibes only, man. It's
yes,
good vibes
yes, it's awesome. You know, we have come to the close. As I said, time flies when you're having fun. It's 9 o'clock on the dot. This is our first Ask Wednesday, and to me, it was quite a success. I'm hoping as time goes by, people feel more comfortable and freer to ask questions, because I am certain that when you're not in this type of forum and setting, you have business questions, you have life questions, you know, you have all kinds of questions. And we have, as I said before, an amalgamation of skills and talents and knowledge and experiences. Come on this show. Next time we have a next Ask Wednesday and ask questions. There is Dr. Vishnu Dorga, there's Keon Smith. I didn't see Dr. Roche here tonight. There's an amazing amazing amount of people, a lot of experiences. Miguel, feel free to ask your questions. Thank you very much. Vishnu, would you like to close us out?
Yep, thank you, Selwyn, and thanks to everyone for contributing this evening. I really enjoyed the discussion on the pandemic that we're facing and basic human needs, because when the music starts playing, some of us actually vibe to the music and it calls us. So, it makes me think about the Avengers and Thanos, and maybe this is the way they figured out to control the population. And I mean, the way Nicholas said it, if you gotta go, you might as well go happy. And
With the bass
so
beating in your chest, right?
so it's really good to hear these thoughts and to have such diverse views on it. I like Miguel's take on investing in a funeral parlor, right? Because you can be cramped in a dance hall or you can be cramped in a box, cramped anyhow, right? So somebody making money in the dance hall, somebody making money in the funeral parlor. But freedom of choice is a key issue. We've been facing it with the vaccinations. And only when we talk about these things can we better understand each other's viewpoints. And we can agree to disagree. We can agree to change our minds. We can agree to be more open-minded. And this is exactly what forums like this allow us to achieve. And again, Selwyn, thank you very much for pulling this together and being very disciplined about it happening every Wednesday, exactly on time. And to everyone attending as well, please continue to make use of these forums so that you can expand your mindset, because when you expand your mindset, everyone you come in contact with gets the same opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
Time for the secret parties now.
The bass hitting in your chest.
It's real. I mean, it's over a year, so people are really feeling that neglect, and people are taking some chances. Right? People are starting to take more and more chances.
Yeah, that is true. Well,
it's a little bit of survival of the fittest. If we were 1,000 years, 2,000 years ago, it would have maybe even prior to that. It's nature doing its natural selection.
Yep. That is true. Well, good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Everyone.